Hey everybody, welcome back to Lisa's Book Nook. We're reading The Scourge by A.G. Henley and we're on chapter 5. I'm back at the top of the sled track. 2 more sacks filled and delivered. My feet are bare, shoes discarded somewhere along the path. I lean against a tree trunk, waiting for the sun to suck the most intense heat with it below the horizon before I venture to the water hole to drink. The food Elin and Aloe gave me is long gone. I'm numb from fatigue and hunger. The idea of spending the night among the flesh-eaters isn't even that frightening anymore. I stagger down to the water, fall on my hands and knees, and drink like an animal. As I clean my filthy face and hands, I can tell my skin will be swollen with sunburn in the morning. The creatures hover, shuffling and chewing their tongues. When will they go? I haven't heard the sounds of a single animal since the Scourge came. What could they be feeding on? I hear Jack's easy laugh and Rose's tinkly voice in my mind, and I cringe. I haven't heard what I thought I heard again. It's almost a relief to be surrounded by the flesh-eaters' shrieks and groans. After drinking my fill, I drag myself back up the hill to the tree I was laying against before. It's as good a place as any. I push together some leaves and brush to make a pillow, curl up, and almost instantly I'm asleep. Something hits my head. I push myself up, confused. "Fennel," Perry says, "listen." I do, and fear crashes through me. A crowd of howling creatures encircles me. I pull my legs up under my chin, making myself smaller. What are they doing? What's happening? Ever since you fell asleep, they've been coming, gathering around you. They seem more aggressive. My arrows weren't keeping them back, so I've been throwing things to wake you up. You need to go back to the caves. Can't, I mumble, punished. Have to stay out here. I try to stand, but I sink back down. My eyes sting like I've been rubbing dirt into them, and Perry's voice sounds like it's percolating from underwater. My cheeks drop onto my arms. "Try," he pleads. "Try to stay awake. I'll tell you a story. More animals? Won't be enough. Too tired." I'm walking on top of water. I have an expansive, majestic pair of wings sprouting from the middle of my back. I can always see in my dreams, although I don't know if what I picture is the same as what the sighted see. My wings begin to flap and I take off, low and slow, my feet skimming the surface. I revel in the speed and freedom. I'm starting to gain altitude when I hear a shout from the shore. Something strikes my beautiful wing and I crash into the water. My right arm throbs. "Quit throwing things, Perry. Let me be." "It wasn't me." "Were you bitten?" Horror strangles his voice. I touch my arm. It's not bleeding, but it hurts like hell. My voice shakes as I answer him. "I think I was, maybe." I pull myself up against a tree and almost topple over. The flesh-eaters scream at the sudden movement. I start to pace, my hand over the bite, but it's hard to pace when you're surrounded. "How do you feel?" Perry's voice is hollow now. "Any different?" Am I changing? I'm sick and dizzy with exhaustion, but I still feel like me. For now. "My arm hurts. How fast do you think it happens?" "I've never seen someone change, but I've heard it's quick." "I've heard that too," I say. "It's like your protection faded when you fell asleep. Did Aloe say that could happen?" "No, but I don't think she's ever slept with the fleshies." Blood pounds in my ears, distorting the cries of the creature. I realize that I'm about to faint. I lodge myself against a tree and jam my head between my legs. When the fuzziness clears away a little, I straighten up slowly. "I'm scared, Perry." A sob sticks in my throat. "It's all right. It's going to be all right." His voice sounds different now, calmer. "You can come up here." "What?" "I'll pull you up with a rope." "But what if I change? What if I come after you?" "I'll take care of it." His voice sounds steady, but like he's struggling to keep it that way. He's telling me he'll kill me, and all I feel is relief. I can't live as one of the Scourge. It's my worst nightmare. "Isn't it against your rules to allow groundlings in the trees? Not to mention someone who's about to become a flesh eater." It can't be helped. I can't let the water bear be taken. That distracts me from the terror clawing away at my insides. What did you call me? Water bear. It's our name for you. Was the aloe called that too? I'm saying whatever pops in my head, putting off the decision, waiting to find out if I'll change. I still don't feel any different. Yes, I didn't know we had a name. Maybe Shrike wasn't as chatty as I seemed to be. What do you want to do? More of them are coming. I hear the new ones, moaning and panting as they get closer. That's it. I can't think the consequences through. All I know is if I'm going to change, I want Perry to be able to put an arrow in my chest or some other essential body part. I want him to ensure I'm deader than dead. Send down the rope. Boards creak under his feet. I'm making a loop in it, like when you swim. Can you climb into the sled? I feel around for it and fall. More than climb, inside. When I stand, I can tell the creatures have moved in around me. Here it comes, he says. Reach up and grab for it. I don't want to bring one of them up instead. I find the loop and pull it over my head, then under my arms. Okay. The flesh-eaters shriek as I start to ascend. I accidentally kick one of them as I go up, and I take perverse pleasure in hearing it grunt, hopefully in pain. The feeling of hanging in midair is unfamiliar and scary, but despite everything, also strangely exhilarating. I'm flying, like in my dream. Swing your legs, I'll pull you in, Perry says. I do what he says, aiming for his voice, and scramble onto the walkway. I end up flush against his body, my face against his warm chest, my arms around his waist. I drop my hands, and he takes a step back, clearing his throat. Relief surges through me, diluting the fear. I'm in the tree, safe from the scourge. Then the walkway sways, and abruptly I feel vulnerable again. I'm in the trees, in lofty territory. I have little fear of moving around on the ground most of the time, but this is different. There's no map in my head of these walkways, and I know nothing of lofty ways. I stand very still, afraid to step in any direction will cause me to plunge to the ground or into some unknown trap. What is it? Perry asks. Do you feel different? I don't. I don't like asking for help. Is there something to hold on to? Of course. He steps beside me and takes my hand. Let me see your arm. There's a bite-shaped mark, but the skin isn't broken. I'll wrap it. He tears some sort of cloth and binds my arm. Shouldn't I be feeling something by now if I was going to change? Maybe. I don't know. I think so. He takes a step closer. You don't look any different. No, I take that back. You look beat. Let's sit. He guides me down the walkway to a small seat. Rough wood planking secured against the trunk of an enormous tree from the feel of it. I hear the rattle of his bow on the walkway as he sits down a few feet from me. The pungent smell of the greenheart trees, always strong on the ground, is even more potent up here. No wonder the Lofties all smell like them, except Perry, with his honeysuckle scent. What now? I ask. We wait. Are you hungry? Starving. Here, I have some bread, berries, and squirrel meat. He puts a cloth in my hand with the food wrapped inside. I want to devour it, but I nibble instead. This may be the only food he has. When the weakness and hunger pangs subside a little, I wrap up the rest of his food and hand it back. His calloused thumb slides across my fingers as he takes the packet. So many scars. I shrug, embarrassed. My hands see for me, but they pay the price. We sit in silence for a few minutes, waiting. I'm conscious of his eyes on me, watching me, looking for any signs of change. How do you feel now? He asks. The same. My arm doesn't hurt as much. I hear him exhale. Maybe we're in the clear. That flesh-eater just wanted to see how you tasted before it dug in. There's the sound of a smile in his voice. I make a face. Probably like salt meat. It's practically all we eat in the caves. Keep your bow close anyway. I allow myself to relax a little as time creeps by and to listen with more interest to the sounds in the trees. Branches creak. The flesh-eaters roam around below us, but I can't hear the sounds of any Lofties. I hope no one can see us, I say. Not likely. I can barely see you now that the sun's gone down, and no one sleeps this low to the ground. From his tone, it sounds like that should somehow be obvious to me. How would I know? It's not like I've ever been up here before. It's not like any groundling has ever been up here before. So where do you sleep? Much further up. Our homes, the kitchens, the workplaces, everything is high up. This is only a little outpost. No one comes down here except to access the water hole when the flesh eaters aren't around. Hey, are you thirsty? He changes the subject quickly, like he doesn't want to leave an opening for me to ask more questions about their community. Guilt trickles through me, thinking of all the water I lapped up earlier. I'm okay. You? It's manageable. We've learned to conserve our water rations when the fleshies are here. I wonder if that means the three have punished the Lofties before by withholding their water. I'd never heard that. Then again, when the Scourge came before, I was doing lessons or playing with the other children in the caves, not following every decision of the council. A cooling wind blows through the branches, lifting the ends of my sweat and dirt-matted hair. I face the breeze and breathe deeply, preparing to ask him the questions that I've been asking myself all day. Perry, why did you shoot Jackal? Couldn't you have put the fire out and let him go back to the caves? Did you have to kill him? Yes, I did have to kill him, he says, his voice hard. Why? Because it was your duty? He started it, remember? But no, not because it was my duty. He was being consumed. By the fire? By the Scourge. What? No one said Jackal was in danger from the flesh eaters. I heard he set the fire, and you shot him as punishment, I say. Shrike told your council exactly what happened. Which of the three did he tell? The one named for a snake. Adder? That's not the story he told us. And yet it's the truth, Perry says. Believe me, Finn, I didn't want to kill the man, but I couldn't let the Scourge take him any more than I could let them take you. Shooting him was the only humane thing I could do. I'm torn. Everything I've been raised to believe urges me not to believe the Lofty, but I want to believe him. Perry's version of what happened is exactly how I would expect him to act. Look what he did for me. And why am I unsurprised to hear Adder might have lied? Especially if the lie placed the Lofties in an even worse light in the eyes of the community. If I told them Perry's side of the story, it would be his word against Adder's. No one would even consider taking the word of a Lofty over the word of one of the three, except me. I believe you, I whisper. Thank you. I listen to the moans of the creatures below. There are less of them now. They've dispersed since Perry pulled me up, like they have no interest in us as long as we're in the trees. Lucky Lofties. I push away the burst of resentment I feel, reminding myself that a Lofty probably saved my life. I owe him. Again. I don't think I would have survived down there. His laugh is sharp. We may not survive up here if anyone finds out I let you come up. You said no one could see us. It's not likely, but still possible. I frown. I'm sorry I put you in this position. I invited you up, remember? I put myself in this position. And the three put us both here. My resentment flares again. What happens if your council finds out? I'd be punished. What would they do? Probably give me the same punishment as you, he says. I chuckle. Assuming he's joking, it happened to my mother. My grin disappears, sending someone without protection to spend the night among the flesh eaters isn't a punishment in our community. It's a death sentence. Permanent banishment. Severing a person's ties to their life and setting them adrift in the forest with a scourge is reserved for only the truly serious infractions, like intentionally taking a life. What did Perry's mother do? Is that how she died, I ask? Believe it or not, she survived. How? It's a long story. Sure you wouldn't rather get some sleep? I'm worn out, but I've only heard a few stories of sighted people who survived the scourge, and most were from before I was born. None were about Lofties. Hazily, I realized I almost didn't survive this time. Could the three possibly have known my protection would fail when I fell asleep? Did Aloe know? She wouldn't have allowed my punishment then, would she? I rest my head against the gnarled tree bark, too tired to contemplate all the possibilities. I'd like to hear it, I say. Perry's voice drifts across the narrow, dark space between us. From what I've heard, Mother was always asking questions as a girl. Why we have to stay in the trees, why we can't walk on the ground or swim in the water, why we don't allow groundlings in the trees, why we always hide when the scourge comes. She asked hard questions, and she didn't like the answers she got. As she grew up, she went looking for different answers. What did she do? She started leaving the trees without permission to take walks on the ground. Really? Why? The Lofties didn't leave the safety of the trees other than to bathe or collect water when the scourge was gone. They usually kept it short and hurried back up like panicked squirrels when the task was done. Of course, we wouldn't allow them to stay on the ground for long either. Shrike said at first she wanted to prove she could. Then she wanted to prove we all could. Leave the trees. Spend time on the ground when the scourge wasn't here. The council was livid when they found out what she was doing. They talked to her, reasoned with her, threatened her. They even gave me to her to foster, hoping being a mother would tame her. They were wrong. She was a good mother, kind, caring, but being a mother didn't stop her. My parents had to give up a baby in the exchange a few years after they got me. Mother supposedly left the trees even more often after that. My father said he worried constantly that she might be consumed by the scourge or grabbed by a ground. He stops, as if he remembered who he's talking to. I'm startled. I've never considered the Lofties might be afraid of us. They were the ones lurking in the trees with their bows and arrows, shooting people at will. Then again, I thought, we creep around on the ground with our spears, superior hunting skills, and fire-setting torches. Maybe I could understand their concern a little. Anyway, Perry hurries on. The council lost patience with her. They said if she was so comfortable on the ground, she could stay and see how she liked it. His voice is harder now, more bitter. The punishment was meant to be for one night, but she was gone more than a week. I almost choke. A week? Where did she go? I don't know. She wouldn't talk about it. Mother was different when she came back, more serious. She did her work. She didn't ask questions anymore. The council figured they found a cure for her curiosity. What did you think? It seemed like she was waiting for something that never happened. She was always watching the ground. My parents began to quarrel. One night they had a fierce argument. I remember being cold. I wanted them to lie down. It was warmer when we all slept together. Then, sometime during the night, she hugged me and told me she loved me. The next morning she was gone. I think about that night and I wished I'd done something, anything, other than rolling over and going back to sleep. Perry sounds vulnerable, like a child. My heart breaks for him. I'm sorry, I murmur. I wish I knew what was so important on the ground that she'd give up her life because of it. I've been looking down ever since, hoping to figure it out. What was her name? I asked. Blaze. It fit her well. She had red blonde hair, like tendrils of flame. She was beautiful. And brave from the sound of it. Maybe even reckless. I shake my head. I don't know what I would have done if Aloe had suddenly disappeared. You're close to her then? I thought I was, but now I don't know. Things have been different between us since the scourge came. How so? I shrug. She hasn't been talking to me. It seems like she's distancing herself, right when you need her most. I nod, gratified that Perry understands how I'm feeling. I'm angry. angry at the council for punishing me in front of the whole community, and angry at Aloe for going along with it without even talking to me. Ever since she joined the three, I feel like I don't know her at all. Perry, do you know who my natural parents are? I thought someone might remember when I was born because of my sightlessness. I don't know. You're about 17? I nod in answer. That's what Shrike said. I would have been pretty young when you were given up. Is Shrike your father? I asked. I thought he might be when we first met. He sounded so proud of you. He just wanted credit for his coaching abilities, Perry said, his voice warm again. He's impressed with you. He thinks you'll be a strong, reliable water bearer, like Aloe. Others agree. I flush at the compliment. I'm not sure my people have so much faith in me. My voice drops. I'm not sure that I have much faith in myself. When do you think the Scourge will go? I wish I knew. It can't be much longer, though, can it? Speaking of the creatures, let me see the bite. I offer my arm to him. He unwraps the bandage and moves closer to look at it with only the illumination of the moon. How does it feel? It still aches, but not bad. Why do you think I didn't change? Because you're protected? Because it didn't break the skin? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm just glad I don't need this anymore. I hear him sheath his knife that I didn't know he had. The sound is chilling. He rewraps my arm. So, why did you ask me about the fleshy's hair? I fidget with the warm hem of my dress, reluctant to tell him what I heard. What is it, Finn? What happened down there? You'll think I'm crazy. I won't. Tell me. He leans closer. The succulent honeysuckle smell again. The words tumble out. I thought I heard one of them speak to me. She asked me for help. It sounded like the partner of the man you shot. He whistles softly. Are you sure? Could you have misheard? Maybe. I draw my knees up under my dress, hugging them to my body. We always thought someone couldn't change back once they began to change. But what if that was Rose I heard? Could we have saved her? Does it take longer to change than we think? Does it mean there's still a chance I could change? I touch my arm. Will you tell Aloe? Perry asks. I'm not sure if he means about Rose or the bite. I don't know. I don't know what any of it means yet, and I don't know if I can trust Aloe anymore. I'm ashamed by the thought. Of course I can still trust her. Can't I? Our councils will need to know if you hear anything like that again. It might mean something's changing with the Scourge. I rest my chin on my knees and rub my eyes. They're even grittier now. You should sleep, he said. Would you like me to tell you a story? A bedtime story? I smile and slide down to lie on my side, resting my head on my good arm. What animal will it be this time? You said you'd tell me about the sheep. He laughs. I have a different story in mind. This was one of my mother's favorite. Have you heard of a cassowary? Tell me. I close my eyes, listening to the hum of the crickets in the trees. The fleshies don't bother them, either. Lucky Lofties, lucky bugs. The cassowary was a bird, an unusual bird that once lived in the forest. It had thick black feathers on its body, a bare, bright blue head and neck, and it wore a crown. It was as tall as a person, fast, and a fighter, but it couldn't fly. It made its home on the ground. A fighting, flightless bird as big as a person? I snort. That's impossible. Maybe so. It's a story. Who knows which ones are true and which ones aren't. But this is a story Mother told me. He settles back against the tree next to me. There once was a hunter who could take down any animal in the forest. He would sit quietly in trees for days, waiting for prey. At first the animals avoided him, but eventually they forgot he was there. When he came a little too close, he raised his bow and arrow and strike. One day the hunter went into the forest to hunt for game. He found a tall tree next to a water hole and prepared himself for a long wait. At midnight, 5 giant cassowaries came to the edge of the waterhole and circled around it, dancing. Very slowly the hunter took aim. Suddenly all 5 birds slipped off their feather coats, revealing 5 beautiful sisters. The hunter, who trained himself to be completely still while hunting, shook at the sight. The youngest woman was so beautiful, he knew he must have her as his partner. At midnight the next night the cassowaries came to the waterhole again. The hunter watched as they once again removed their coats of feathers. When the younger sister swam across the pond, he left the trees and stole her coat. After their swim, the woman returned, and the youngest sister realized her coat of feathers was missing. Her sisters tried to help her find it, but they were sleepy and wanted to go home. The youngest sister told them to go. "I will return when I find my coat," she said. After her sisters left, the hunter approached the girl, her coat in hand. "Please give it back," the girl said. The hunter shook his head and began to walk away. The girl followed, pleading with him to return her feathers. He led her far away to his home. When they reached it, she fell down, tired to the bone. The young woman woke up days later, and the hunter cared for her needs, but she only wanted her coat of feathers. "It's lost," he told her. The cassowary woman decided to stay with the hunter until she was strong again. But slowly, the girl forgot about her life as a bird. When the hunter eventually asked her to partner with him, she agreed, and soon after she had a child. For several years, the hunter and the cassowary woman lived together with their son, and she was happy. One day, while the young woman was cleaning their home, she discovered a box hidden in a hole in the floor. She pulled the box out, opened it, and found her coat of cassowary feathers inside. As she stroked the black feathers, the woman remembered she had once been a bird, living free with her sisters. She slipped the coat on and instantly turned into a cassowary again. Flapping her wings with joy, she raced outside as her family was coming home from the forest. The little boy pointed to the cassowary as it flew away. The hunter knew her immediately. He shouted, "Please don't go," but his words came too late. The cassowary woman had remembered who she really was. Perry stopped. The crickets are silent too, as if they were listening. "Such a strange story," I slur, already half asleep. "I dream of flying again, but this time when I take to the air, my head and neck are brilliant blue, my feathers a glossy black, and nothing impedes my powerful wings as I soar across the sparkling water. Wake to the sound of birds calling to each other. My head rests on something soft. Suddenly remembering I'm in the trees, I jump up. The walkway creaks and sways under my feet. I throw out my arms in panic, but then Perry's there. He grips my arms, steadying me. "Easy, you're all right." His voice is husky with sleep, his hands warm against my chilled skin. "I need to go. I need to get down. Someone might see us." "It's early. No one's awake yet." Still, I was so frightened and exhausted last night, I would have gone anywhere the Scourge wasn't. Now that I'm safe, well rested, and still human, being in the trees feels very wrong. His hands stay on my arms. Was it that bad, then, spending the night with me? I laugh nervously and turn my back to him. Finding a rope handrail running above the edge of the walkway, I hold it with both hands to settle myself. Perry stands behind me and places his hands on top of mine. My heart lurches, but I don't move away. Instead, I turn my hands over and braid my fingers through his. Scars covering calluses covering scars. I listen for sounds of flesh eaters below, but I only hear birds singing in the swaying branches. "I should go," I say. He leads me down the walkway and helps me loop the rope around myself. I wait for him to say something, anything, but he doesn't. As he lowers me down, I don't feel like I'm flying so much as falling, and instead of being happy, when my feet finally touch the ground, I'm disappointed. I want to be up in the trees again with him. Alright, folks, that's the end of Chapter 5. I guess I'll see you the next time for Chapter 6. I hope you're enjoying this book as much as I am. Bye-bye for now.